This presentation quickly reviews APA titles and headings. Now I know that APA formatting can cause anxiety in some people, but I wanted to take some time to really talk about why we use APA headings and what they're supposed to accomplish in a manuscript. And so during this presentation, we'll talk about how to format a title page, and in particular the running head, and what that running head should look like on the various pages of your manuscript. We'll talk about the abstract and the references sections. We'll talk about the introduction, and then we'll talk about the various headings that are used throughout the body of your paper, and why those headings are formatted the way that they are. Every manuscript begins with a title page. The title page has the same components each time. It has the title itself, has a running head, has the author byline who wrote the work, it has their institutional affiliation, where is the author from, and then various notes. We're not going to talk much about the author notes because you likely won't ever have to submit them for your program. However, if you're submitting to a professional journal, you may have to include an author note. Here's an example of a title page. As you can see, it includes the running head, the title, the name of the author, and their affiliation. There's a few things that I want to point out in this title page because they're often missed or omitted by students. The first thing is the running head itself. Notice that the H in running head is lowercase. Do not capitalize that. It's not APA. But notice that the running head itself is in all caps. Now, APA guidelines state that the running head itself can only be a maximum of 50 characters. That includes punctuation. It also includes spaces. The running head should be a short title. It shouldn't be very long. Then also notice there's a page number, even on the title page. Finally, take a look at the title itself. Each major word in the title is capitalized. Now some of you might say, well, wait a sec, the word with is not a major word. But notice that it's placed after a colon. Any word after a colon is also capitalized. Following the title page is the abstract. The abstract is usually 100 to 150 words and includes keywords at the end. Yet notice that the words abstract are not bolded. This confuses some people because when we start talking about levels of headings in APA formatting, the first level is centered and bolded. But because the abstract is not a part of the body of the manuscript, technically it's not counted as a header. The keywords at the bottom also have the term keywords italicized. Before we jump into the body of the paper, I wanted to go to the very end of a manuscript and talk about the references section. Notice that the word references also isn't bolded. Because it's not in the body, it's not considered a header. Now we're ready to go to the beginning of the body. The body of an APA manuscript is usually found on page 3, after the title page and the abstract. And notice that the title of the paper is once again placed at the very beginning of the body. And unlike a level 1 heading, which we'll see in a few seconds, the title is not bolded, but it is centered. Additionally, every major word of the title is capitalized, just like on the title page. But notice that at the beginning of this document, there is no heading for introduction. According to page 63 of the current APA manual, you never put the introduction header because it's assumed. Now that we're talking about the body of a manuscript, we're ready to start talking about the levels of headings that APA provides. But before we do that, you may be wondering, why does this even matter? Why is it important to include headings in a paper? Why should I even care? If that's you, I want you to take a minute to think about why you're writing a manuscript and what you're trying to do. Remember that most writings are persuasive in nature. They try to tell a position and get others to believe that position, using literature, using research to support their claims. Remember that Tolman talked about these claims as different constructions of evidence, interim claims, and warrants and supports. And so as you're writing a document, you have to frame those arguments and support them with other people's work and with research. These series of claims with their interim claims, warrants, and supports can quickly become complex. And so headings are used to help us and readers make sense of those claims and remember where they are in the argument. To accomplish this, the APA manual has included 5 levels of heading, and we'll talk about each one as we go. Each heading indicates how that section of the document relates to the previous section. Most Level 1 headings are used for major portions of the document: the lit review, the methods, the results, the discussion and conclusion. But Level 2 and Level 3 headings talk about those subpoints and how those relate to those major settings. The first level is pretty straightforward. It is each major word capitalized, centered, and bolded. Here's a picture of a Level 1 heading. A Level 2 heading is also pretty self-explanatory. Each major word is capitalized, it's also bolded, but it's aligned left as opposed to centered. In both Level 1 and Level 2 headings, the heading itself takes up its own line of space. Level 3 headings are where things start getting complicated. A Level 3 heading is indented. It's also bolded, but only the first word is capitalized. In fact, it's capitalized as you would capitalize a sentence, and there's a period at the end. Where people get into trouble with a Level 3 and above heading is that the Level 3 heading is part of the paragraph. There is no carriage return after the heading. The paragraph starts on the same line. A Level 4 heading is similar to a Level 3 heading. It's also part of the paragraph. It also is capitalized like a sentence. It's bolded, and it has a tab to start with. However, unlike a Level 3 heading, it's also italicized. And lastly, a Level 5 heading is similar to a Level 4, except it's not bolded. It is just italicized. In my experience, it's common to use headings levels 1 through 3. It's pretty rare to use Level 4, and I don't think I've ever used Level 5. If you're often using Level 4 or 5 headings, you might want to think about how you're organizing your paper. While headings may seem tedious to you now, they're actually pretty easy to master and easy to use. The nice thing about them is they help to identify where you're going in your paper and help with the understanding of how to interpret it.